Most people think the internet is constantly being rebuilt and upgraded. But some of the systems that help keep the web running today are created decades ago, and they still look almost exactly the same. In fact, parts of the modern internet controlled through websites that look like they belong in the late 1990s. The strange part is, nobody wants to change them. Welcome back to Last Seen Online. This is a series where we explore strange stories from the hidden corners of the internet. From mysterious accounts to the unexplained signals and sometimes the quiet systems that keep everything running. Today's story isn't about something new, it's about something old. Very old. Because despite the constant upgrades, new apps, modern technology we see every day, much of the internet is still built on the infrastructure that hasn't changed much since the early days of the web. In some cases, the system keeps everything connected still look like they belong in another era entirely.
When people think about the internet, they usually imagine something constantly evolving. New websites appear every day, apps update weekly, and software improves constantly. But the foundation of the internet works very differently. Much of the infrastructure was designed decades ago, and once those systems started working reliably, engineers became extremely cautious about changing them. Unlike a mobile app, if something goes wrong with internet infrastructure, the consequences can spread across the entire network. One small mistake can ripple outward, affecting thousands or even millions of services. Because of that, many of the systems that quietly keep the internet running follow a simple philosophy. If it works, don't break it. Every time you visit a website, a series of invisible systems work together to connect you to it. Your browser sends a request, servers process it, and network infrastructure routes the data across the internet. One of the most important pieces of this process is something most people rarely think about: the Domain Name System, or DNS. DNS acts like the internet's address book. Instead of remembering long numerical IP addresses, you type a domain name, and DNS translates that name into the correct server location. Without it, navigating the internet would be almost impossible. Many of the tools used to manage these systems remain surprisingly simple, and in some cases they still rely on interfaces that haven't changed much in years. If you could look inside some of the administrative systems used to manage parts of the internet, you might be surprised by how they look. There are no sleek interfaces or modern design systems. Instead, you often find simple dashboards filled with plain text links, basic buttons, and minimal graphics. Some of these control panels look almost identical to websites from the late 1990s. That doesn't mean they are outdated or broken. In fact, many engineers prefer systems that are simple and stable. Complex software can introduce more bugs and unexpected behavior, while simple tools are easier to maintain and harder to break. While the public-facing internet became more visual and interactive, many of the systems controlling it remained intentionally minimal. Even deeper beneath the surface are the protocols that allow the internet itself to function. Many of these communication protocols were designed long before social media, smartphones, or streaming video existed. Systems created in the early decades of the internet still form the backbone of how computers communicate online today. These protocols were designed with flexibility in mind so that the internet could evolve without needing to rebuild its foundation every few years. Because of that forward-thinking design, many of these early systems continue to operate quietly in the background, handling enormous volumes of traffic every second. Behind all of this infrastructure are small teams of engineers whose work rarely appears in headlines. These engineers monitor servers, maintain legacy systems, and carefully manage upgrades to critical components of the internet. Their job is not to reinvent the internet, but to keep it stable. Sometimes that means resisting changes that might seem obvious from the outside. A well-intentioned improvement can introduce new problems, and when millions of websites depend on the same systems, Even a small mistake can have widespread consequences. Stability becomes the most important goal. It might seem logical to replace older infrastructure with modern technology, but doing so is far more complicated than it appears. The internet is like a massive interconnected puzzle where every piece connects to thousands of others. Replacing one component requires ensuring that it continues to work with everything surrounding it. A newer system might be faster or easier to use, but if it breaks compatibility with existing systems, it can cause major disruptions. Because of this, many infrastructure upgrades happen slowly over long periods of time, often through careful patches and gradual improvements rather than full replacements. Of course, relying on older infrastructure can also introduce risks. Occasionally, vulnerabilities are discovered in legacy systems, or software written decades ago encounters traffic patterns it was never designed to handle. When that happens, engineers must respond carefully, applying fixes without interrupting the services that depend on the system. These updates often happen quietly behind the scenes. Most internet users never notice them, but they play a critical role in keeping the web stable and secure. The modern internet feels fast, sleek, and constantly evolving. New platforms appear every year, and technology continues to move forward at an incredible pace. But beneath all of that innovation lies a quieter truth. Parts of the internet are still powered by systems designed long before today's digital world existed. Old interfaces, old protocols, and old infrastructure continue to operate in the background, supporting the services people use every day. Not because the internet stopped evolving, but because some of its original foundations were built so well that they never needed to change.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear what you think. Did you expect that parts of the internet might still rely on systems built decades ago? Or does it make sense that most important infrastructure would stay simple and stable? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden stories behind the internet, consider liking this video and subscribing so you don't miss out on the future episodes of Last Seen Online. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Or at least I hope.